Greetings and welcome to this week's edition of 401k Real Talk. This is Fred Barstein, contributing editor at wealthmanagement.com's RPA Edge and CEO at Trout, TPSU, and 401k TV. I review all of last week's stories and select the most important and interesting ones, providing open, honest, and candid discussion you will not get anywhere else. So let's get real. First story, the cost of 401k plans and investments continue to decline according to the latest edition of 401k Book of Averages. Investment costs were down 3 basis points this year overall, probably as a result of more index funds and CITs. Small plan costs also dropped 3 basis points and 8 basis points since 2018. Not only do costs vary by plan size, as expected, with $5 million plans charging 35% more than an average $50 million plan, account balances are also determinative. For example, a $20 million plan with 2,000 participants costs an average 117 basis points compared to a plan with 200 participants costing 91 basis points. There's also a wide variance among providers, especially in the small market, with a whopping difference of 69 versus 267 basis points, which will further drive record-keeper consolidation. Next story, PEPs promulgated in Secure 1.0 continue to gain traction, but perhaps in unintended markets. Willis Towers Watson, a mega market investment consultant, announced a new PEP to be record kept by Transamerica, targeting the $50 to $500 million DC market. Though up to 40% lower costs were cited as a reason to use PEPs, we suspect that limited liability, less administrative costs, and greater protection against lawsuits will be bigger drivers. Ironically, PEPs with smaller plans may make them more susceptible to lawsuits. Also, Aon announced that they are beefing up staff for their PEP, which already has $1 billion. Look for PEPs along with high-tech, low-touch financial wellness tools to enable institutional consultants to move down market and compete with RPAs. Next story, are the heydays of the RPA M&A market over? According to the wise rhino, Dick Darien, signs are pointing in that direction as interest rates increase borrowing costs. Though 2002 may be as active as the previous year, Darien says that he expects the next 2 years to be muted as it does take 6 to 12 months for the slowdown to take effect. The RPAs are in the second of 4 phases of the consolidation curve, characterized by lots of acquisitions in an attempt to achieve scale with a focus on revenue, which is followed by phase 3, concentrating on business building and profits, and less but bigger deals. When one aggregator buys another, we'll know that the RPAs have entered phase 3, similar to when Great West bought JP Morgan's record keeping, and then Empower bought MassMutual and Pru's divisions. Will valuations drop as the sales dwindle? And will the coming RPA RFP wave favor larger firms and further accelerate the consolidation? Next story, speaking of RPA RFPs, the question is not whether plan sponsors have a fiduciary responsibility to conduct due diligence on all vendors paid out of plan assets. The question is whether it will happen to plan advisors and who will help, something I discussed in my last week's column. Many RPAs built their businesses offering due diligence services for record keepers and investments, which continues to be a mainstay for many. But some are reluctant to recommend the same process for their own service and feel comfortable conducting due diligence on themselves, something they scoffed at when offered by record keepers. No wonder 47% of plans are likely to change their RPA according to the annual Fidelity study. Finally, in an attempt to defend the indefensible, NHTSA, a part of ARA which includes NAPA, published a white paper explaining why the K through 12 multi-vendor 403B scheme is good for teachers. Dan Otter, a former teacher and founder of 403BWise, picks apart the high-cost, conflicted retirement system that plagues teachers, defended and promulgated by NHTSA and its members. There's an interesting video where the head of ARA is forced to explain to California regulators why they use a single vendor for their 401k plan with limited investment choices versus the multi-vendor system prevalent in non-ERISA 403b plans, which they claim is good for teachers. All of which is personal for me, as I had to help my daughter became a teacher to help underprivileged children joining Teach for America unwind from high-cost annuity-based programs with surrender charges offered through brokers working for the providers who tried to conceal fees. It's indefensible and the exact opposite of the business model of most, if not all, NAPA members who act as fee-based fiduciaries offering single vendor, low-cost plans while also providing advice. So those were the most important stories from the past week. I listed a few additional others that I thought were worth reading. Please let me know if I missed anything or if you have any comments. Otherwise, I look forward to speaking to you next week on 401k Real Talk.